from betting weekly, because we win. That is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show. Red River sponsors, it's time to start. Enjoy the show. Yeah, give me your picks, give me your insights. I want the bets from Betting Weekly, because we win. That is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win.
Well, welcome in everyone to Betting Weekly Live. It's Tuesday, the 17th of December. You with Steve Wyss. I'm delighted to have RJ back alongside me today. How's it been going, buddy?
It's going great, Steve. Good to be back with you. That was a good little jingle there. I'm tapping my feet still. I've enjoyed that. And, happy holidays to you and everyone who's viewing. Look forward to going through some interesting matches from the pitch to basketball. And, great to be back. Let's get after it.
Yeah, it's good to see you back. And I was looking at the future schedule, and I think we're back to back on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So bringing in the new year on, because we were Betting Weekly Live, RJ. Special edition.
Absolutely.
But how's the betting been going for you recently? I know you've been involved in a lot of different sports. NFL, you've been much bigger on this year than before. I hope you've been in the winners. What's your current take from the state of the betting world?
Yeah, it's been a venture for me in particular, right? I've mainly just been a soccer guy. I've ventured into the NFL, which has been a pretty good season so far, netting around 15 units, and been pretty consistent, right? My focus over the last 2 or 3 months, right? I've been mainly more of an action guy, right? High volume, and I've kind of toned that down a little bit, really, to just focus, back to my core beliefs, really, which is quality over quantity. And as most on the show, right, all the tipsters here on the show, very, very selective with the picks. And that's kind of what I've done, right? So now there's a lot going on, right? I'm involved with basketball as well. So we have college basketball, international basketball, soccer, and then football, right, Thursday. And then now we have some games on Saturday, which is nice for the viewers. So, but overall, been pretty good, Steve, but keeping a close eye on my wagers. And I've noticed you've been doing very well here on the show as well. So it's great to see, and hopefully we can bring that success here today.
Well, I'm glad to hear you've been doing pretty well. Coming up on today's show, RJ's got a couple of exclusive college basketball picks for us. We're also going to have a Super Bowl discussion, because we're now entering the playoff period. Is there a bit of value? Can we get on some teams that might just sneak in and go deep, that sort of thing? So we're going to have a little bit of a look at that, and also some of the market info in that department. In terms of the soccer today, it's quite a light card. With RJ on the show, I was looking through what we've got on, and there's leagues like Somalia, Romania, all across the board, Malta. So I was thinking, maybe we might end up talking about that, but it's a tough day. We only go with bets that we think could be advisable to win and that we know a bit about. So I've narrowed it down to the Dutch Cup, otherwise known as the KNVB Beker, because there's 5 interesting games today, and tomorrow as well we've got some matches. I'll talk about it. And let's just start with the first round here. The early game is actually PSV Eindhoven against a team who I'm not even going to try and pronounce this one, I'll leave this one to you. Koninklijke HFC. Let's just call them HFC. Now, PSV are a minus 5,000 to win the game. Over 4.5 goals is at minus 152 for this game. There's actually, Bet Rivers are not offering Asian handicaps on the match. And now, for those looking at these cups, I've done my research into this. PSV are very, very likely to field a reserve team in this game, or certainly a rotated side. But that rotated side is still very, very strong. Also, that's the early game. We've got a couple more on the card here. Quick Boys from Tier 3 against Fortuna Sittard, and RKC Volvic against Cambuur. Those clashes, that is an Eredivisie against Eredivisie clash. There's a couple of bets I do like today, but I mean, on those first 3 games there, RJ, I know you've got a few tidbits of info to share with us. Is there anything on there that caught your eye, first of all, on those first 3 games in the Dutch Cup?
Yeah, a couple quick tidbits, right? PSV play like you said, it's going to be challenging for you did a good job, Steve, pronouncing that. I'm not even going to attempt, to be fair. We're going to call them HFC, but they're one of the oldest clubs in the Netherlands. They were founded in 1879. This is the first competitive meeting between PSV and the side. As you said, they're probably going to field a reserve team. So, I could see some goals here, but over 4.5 is a little bit steep for my liking. And then, defending champions Feyenoord begin their they play MVV. Historically, Feyenoord have dominated this match. Winning 4 out of their last 5. And then Quick Boys, which is a pretty interesting name. I've actually wagered on them a few times in the lower Holland or Netherlands divisions. They face Sittard, who have remained unbeaten in their last 5 away cup matches. So interesting stat there. But I do like goals in the match against Cambuur versus, what do we say, Waldwick?
Volvic, I think, is how you pronounce it. I'm not entirely sure about that one.
Look pretty good, Steve. You got the 17th ranked side in Eredivisie versus, I think, a top 5, top 6 side in the second division. Both teams have a pretty strong history of fluctuating between the Eredivisie and the second division. But it could be an open match, right? Again, a lower, weaker to Eredivisie team versus a higher seeded second division team. So it has the makings for some goals there, but that's a lean for me there in that match. How about you?
I like the goals in 2 of the games. Now, it's worth mentioning the Quick Boys game against Fortuna Sittard. Now, if an Asian line was offered, I would take the Asian line. But in this instance, because it's a cup match, they were not offered by Bet Rivers. So I've got to go straight over 3.5 goals at plus 130. No messing around here. And I'll tell you something interesting about these Quick Boys. So there's no promotion from the Dutch third division to the second division, apart from the B teams, like the young Ajaxes of this world and the young AZs of this world, because the entire third tier is an amateur league. Yep. Anyway, these Quick Boys have won 12 out of 17 in the third tier, 1 loss. They've already beaten Almere City, who are an Eredivisie side. They're not a very good Eredivisie team, but 3-0 in the last round. So they've got a bit of form about this. And they're going to be bang up. This is probably as big as it gets for them. Also, they can't get promoted. They can win the third division. Well done to them, but they won't go up. So it'd be nice for them. I think they're going to put everything into the cup. Like you said, though, at the same time here, I've seen a bit of Fortuna Sittard this season. I do occasionally watch some of the Dutch games. And Sittard are not bad at all. I think they recently held Feyenoord. And, they're the rightful favourites at minus 177. But be careful here. This is a banana skin. Because for these Quick Boys, it's like their cup final. I think they're just going to throw everything at them. I mean, we know what Dutch football's like. It's full of goals, full of chances. And if Sittard play like the top tier side that they should do, then they're capable of covering this goal line nearly on their own. So over 3.5, I like that. And I do agree with you. In the Volvic game against Cambuur, there's 2 divisions separating the teams, but not many places. I mean, Volvic are awful. I think they've had 1 win all season. The second bottom of they've lost 12 out of 16 games in the top tier. Cambuur are starting to find some form. Cambuur are top 5. So there's actually only, 6 places separating the 2 teams, even though there's a division separating them. And again, I just looked at the defense of Volvic. It's horrendous.
They've allowed 40 goals in 16 matches. They're the worst defense in the top division by far, right? So
they might be one of the worst defenses in Europe.
They're up there, right? They're certainly in honorable mention for that. And have everyone in the chat. We see everyone. You know what? And I believe, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the winner of this cup earns a spot in the Europa League.
You
next
do
year?
get a spot. Yeah, you certainly do. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those across Europe. Yeah, it's worth its weight in gold for sure. But just to get a good run is for some teams it's important. For some teams it's less important. And I mean, you got to look at. I mean, I think both teams will be. I mean, Volvic are probably down already, and we know we're only in December, but they look down, so they might as well have a good go in this cup against Cambuur, who, Cambuur actually have historically floated between the top tier and second tier in Holland, and they found some form. They had a 6-0 away win just a few weeks ago, and I don't think there's not going to be that much of a gulf between these two teams at all. So it's going to be quite an even game, but it's a sort of even game where it's not tight, where they both go for it. You could see, I don't know, 2-2, and I don't actually know if this cup goes straight to extra time at this stage or not, or straight to penalties.
It goes penalties, yeah.
Straight away. In the early rounds, it often does. The cup rules have changed so much across European countries in the last.
So it does go to extra time, and if extra time ends, then it goes to a shootout. So that's how it works. But yeah, it's.
Well, that's an even more reason that at times, no one wants extra time, do they? So I think, in this match, there is an Asian goal line offered of over 3 for Volvic against Cambuur, and I do like this one.
Yeah, me too.
I think it pushes at least just the sheer. It's not so much the offenses on show; it's the defenses, just soft and I think cup matches often are either in 2 brackets. They're damp squibs, they're awful. Or they just explode because there's no pressure on the teams. If you lose the game, it's not the end of the world at this stage. Let's be honest with you.
Right.
If it was like a semi-final, quarter-final, it's a little bit different. So there was 2 other games. I mean, you mentioned there the Feyenoord game against Maastricht. And now this is Maastricht are not terrible. They're a mid-table second-tier side, mixed sort of form. I mean, this is. Feyenoord will obviously be targeting this competition, but they've had a lot on their plate recently, probably a bit of rotation. You'd imagine that Feyenoord win the game, but minus 715, I think I can happily pass up on minus 770 now. A lot of these cup matches, and we'll be saying this tomorrow when Jack was on the show, is lineup dependent. It really is. You've got to probably wait with the big teams. But for those who are interested in Feyenoord, minus 2.25 is the Asian handicap, and over 4 is the Asian line. I just wouldn't be interested because for Maastricht, it's like I said, this is like their Champions League final of the season. They're not going to they're not going to get promoted from the second tier. Yeah, they might as well give it a good go. I'm not saying they're going to get a result or anything, but Feyenoord are going to have to give it a good go here. FC Eindhoven against Excelsior Rotterdam. This is a battle between 2 teams in the second tier. They're not bad teams. Excelsior are top of the second tier, and they go to FC Eindhoven mid-table. This is where I would be careful of a team. Excelsior are minus money. They're the better side, but I think they might be focusing on the league. They want to go back up to the top tier in the Netherlands. And I was reading a local article which suggested there could be some potential rotation. We don't know. Do check out the key players from Excelsior. Top scorers. They are one of the leading scorers in the league. Omaroa, the Swedish international, he's double-digit goals for the season. Do make sure that he is starting if you are going to bet on Excelsior for this game. I just want to say hello to everyone in chat. Rick, to Ming, Villa fan, Shakespeare with another win. Shakespeare is unbelievable. This guy has been winning so many tickets in the chat since we've been doing the live shows. Fantastic call again. Krieger to see a Disky and Port Laguna as well. Always good to see Player Cam, Ian as well. The Quick Boys, I'd be looking at if you can get an Asian line in. Absolutely, I think that's the most interesting game. Quick Boys against the Sittard, because this third tier team are probably good enough for the second tier, but they're never allowed to go up there. I don't think promotion is going to be allowed until 2027 or 2026 in Holland. There's a lot of weird regulations going on. It's to do with the pro licenses and stuff. But some of the Yeah, some of the third-tier teams, they are amateur, but they will be decent and quick boys. I think I looked at the underlying metrics for that league. They are by far the best team in the third tier. There are Women's Champions League games on. I don't personally bet on that one. I know I've occasionally dabbled there, RJ, but it's not my wheel, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I did take a look last night actually at the match between Real Madrid versus Chelsea in the Women's Champions League. Line is over 3. I think it's around -115 on Bet Rivers. I was intrigued by that, but really what you have there is two teams sitting at the top of the table. Their positions are very well secured, so I'm just not sure the motivation will be there. So I passed, but if there was any play that looked somewhat intriguing to me, it was Chelsea versus Real Madrid over 3. But again, that's more of a soft lean, if anything.
That's quite a low line
answer
for
your question, right?
because there's a lot of high goal lines in the Women's Champions League, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. And you got
yeah.
two very strong sides, right? But very strong defensively as well. So I think I don't know. It looked to me like a bit of a trap, so I stayed away. But that's my insight. That was the only game that looked somewhat interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the Women's Champions League on Bet Rivers here. Roma against Galatasaray women. The goal line's at over 5.5, for example. It's not unusual to get some silly high goal lines. I wouldn't have a clue about any of the teams, I've got to be honest. But I do see the scores that go through. But good luck if you are going to be betting on the Women's Champions League, Rick there. Ray, great to see you as well. Maninda says Shakespeare needs to change his name to Nostradamus. Well, I'll tell you what, Shakespeare, if you're watching now, you can give us a pick in this market because we're going to switch over to NFL. But I thought with RJ on the show, let's get an opinion of him before Christmas about the Super Bowl market, because there we are at the minute with Bet Rivers. Buffalo Bills are the favorites, plus 400. What is going on with their games? They're like, every time I see them, there's like nearly 40, 45, 40 or something every game with the Bills. We've got the Eagles of the Lions as well, fairly short price. I can tell you now some interesting data from the trader today. The top 3 future liabilities for the sportsbook with Bet Rivers are the Eagles, the Steelers, and the Lions. A Steelers Super Bowl win would be a massive, massive loss for the sportsbook. RJ, the Steelers at the minute can be backed at 33-1. Do you give the Pittsburgh Steelers any chance? Because the sportsbook does not want those Steelers to be going deep in these playoffs.
You know, there's two things. It's like a catch-22 with that team, right? Mike Tomlin, very consistent. He's never had a losing record in any season that he's been in the NFL so far. Very disciplined coach. The players want to play for him. Personally, no, right? The reason why I think Russell Wilson's a bit of a liability. I think he shows spark at times, but I just don't trust Russell Wilson to put that kind of money, or to even put a little bit on. Plus 3,300. There are plus 3,300 for a reason. You know, I agree with the books, and most of the time that's how it aligns. Like, I don't think the Bills are the team to beat right now, right? They've taken care of the Kansas City Chiefs at home. They went on the road and beat the Lions, you know, fairly convincingly. I think their defense needs to button up a little bit, right? They're great for totals. They're great for overs. Their games. I think I was on the over the other night. It was 54 points, and I think they scored something like 80, 85, 86. So that's something to target in their games. But they do need to button up the defense a little bit, especially as they get closer to the playoffs. Lions, obviously. Dan Campbell and that team's got something really good going on there in Detroit. I kind of picture, to be fair, and I think most would agree. I like to see the Lions and the Bills in the Super Bowl. I think I've seen enough of the Chiefs, right? I'm a Patriots fan, so I guess I know what it's like now to sort of be like, oh, the Patriots again, right? Everyone kind of hated the Pats, and you know, that's because they were consistent. They win, and you can never count out the Chiefs. Now, it'd be interesting to watch with Patrick Mahomes, right, with that high ankle sprain that he suffered last weekend. You know, I'd imagine he'll try to play through it, or he'll be out a couple weeks. I don't know yet. I haven't seen the injury report, but you never can count out the Chiefs, right? They're too good. They're too consistent. But I just really like the Bills, and in fact, I'm rooting for the Bills. Right, I'm a Patriots fan, but I'm rooting for Josh Allen and that team. What he's doing with what I think all the analysts thought would be a very weak offense. Right, Shakir has stepped up, and honestly, it's what Shakespeare saying. So there's a couple of things in here. I think.
Ooh, it's too early for a Shakespeare Super Bowl pick.
Yeah, I mean,
but I tell you what, I'm going to throw one out to you. I think I know where one of the bets is going to go. I'm going to give you a free $50 bet, right, and a free $10 bet, right. And the $50 bet obviously can go on anyone, but I was going to say, if you had to basically predict who you think is going to win the Super Bowl right now, that is who I'd suggest you put that $50 bet on. But sure. I'm looking for sort of a dog as well. Maybe a wild shot or whatever. Someone a little bit bigger, who could maybe go under the radar a bit, that no one's really talking about to that extent. And if it was the Bills against the Lions in the Super Bowl, that would be a wheelbarrow job for the overs, surely. I dread to think what the points line would be. I mean, the Bills. Do you think the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl now, or is that just a hope?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I look at consistency, right, and how they perform against top opponents. Like I said, they took care of the Chiefs at home. Buffalo's a very tough place to go, right? So hopefully they can
tough place to go. I like it.
A tough place to go, right? Red card or yellow card, right? And they've done it on a road in Detroit. I mean, if I were to throw like that $10 bet that you talked about, Steve, I'd probably throw it on the Packers at plus 1,400. I think they're also a well-rounded team. Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, they have the talent in the receiver spots. They're playing pretty good football right now, and they took care of Seattle pretty convincingly in Seattle, which again is a difficult place to go, right? With the 12th man there, as they say, it's a very open right now, and I think I agree with Shakespeare. It's probably a little bit early, but Buffalo for that stronger, bigger wager if I had to, and then probably the Packers. And again, it's all subjective to how they finish out the season, injuries, right? No matter where you look right now, teams are for the most part very banged up, and it's about those secondary players and even third string players that step up and do their job, right? And I think you've seen with Buffalo and some of these other teams, they face the injuries, but they still get the job done. So that's what's important. The depth too is very important to consider.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, the Bills certainly are finding some strong rhythm offensively. Shakespeare says, if it was your money, I would bet Buffalo. No young or rookie quarterback is winning the Super Bowl, he thinks. I mean, the biggest winners yesterday on the sportsbook, by the way, over $50,000 on the Minnesota Vikings on the money line. So Shakespeare, maybe his advice on the show yesterday prompted people to be betting on the Vikings. They got the job done for sure there. It was, a couple of losing bets as well in that game, mostly live in running. But a good day for the bettors in general in the NFL yesterday. So I mean, that's interesting thoughts on the Super Bowl market. Now, if you're watching live now or on demand, put us in your thoughts in. Who do you think at this stage is going to win that Super Bowl? Is there a team that can surprise everyone and go under the radar and back them now at a big price, even if they don't go on to win it? If they could go deep, potentially even reach the divisional round, you can get some money back. You can hedge. I don't like to use that word hedge on these shows with Nigel Seeley around, but it's you can do it. It's a way of trading in particular betting. But before we go, we've got certainly one very strong play and at least one other, possibly a second play. RJ, this is in college basketball, and we're looking here at the Dayton match. So this is a handicap bet on the basketball. Take us through this game and what the pick's going to be.
Yeah. Steve, one quick thought on NFL. One other thing I'd mention briefly is the Broncos. watch out for the Broncos. They won 4 in a row. They're putting up 25, 30 plus points a match, albeit against some weaker teams. But Bo Nix is playing well, so that's another team I consider. But yes, we're moving on to college basketball tonight. We have the Dayton Flyers versus the UNLV Rebels. So Dayton 9-2, UNLV 5-4. This match will be played, or this game will be played in Dayton, Ohio. Tip-off is 7 p.m. Eastern time. Dayton, who are 8-2 against the spread, are ranked 22 nationally. They're riding a 4-game winning streak. They're probably one of the more shocking surprises this year in college basketball. They've beat Marquette pretty convincingly. Marquette was ranked number 6. They beat them 71-63. And then they beat number 2 ranked UConn, right? And college basketball is very interesting because typically when you get to your home court, it's very dominant for most home teams, right? Not always the case, but especially in the Big East, there's some tough places. This is the A10. I'm a Big East guy. Sorry, I'm a Providence Friars fan, but home court advantage is very important. Dayton does play typically better at home than they do on the road. UNLV's kind of a mixed bag. They have struggled a little bit. The offense for Dayton averages around 80 points per game, right? They shoot around 50% from the field. They're about 38% from 3-point range. And they do a very good job, of distributing the ball. They average around 18 assists per match. Now looking over at Dayton, they allow around 68 points per game. They have been more effective at home. And in fact, they basically have their more common defensive performances are just simply better at home. But UNLV, interesting, they're 1-7 against the spread. They did snap a 3-game losing streak. They did beat Pacific 72-65. However, they played Creighton on the road, who I would say is fairly similar to Dayton, I guess, and they lost 83-65. They average 72.4. They shoot around 44%. And, some of their key players, their main key players, Deaton Thomas Jr., he averages around 17 points per game. UNLV average around 72 points against, and they just have shown vulnerabilities against stronger teams. You look at basically the quick offensive ranks and defensive ranks. Dayton is probably around the 14th ranked offense in college basketball. Their defense isn't as strong. They're around the 70th ranked team. But you look on the other side, UNLV is about the 142nd, 143rd out of about 390 or so teams. So from the front to back, you look at this team offensively, there's no doubt about it that Dayton is just a much stronger offensive team. Posh Alexandria, Javon Bennett, Zeed Key, Enoch Cheeks. I mean, very, very strong squad. Defensively, better. They're better than UNLV. They're not the best, but I think their offensive power will just, showcase dominance at home. The spread is -10. You can get -10 on Bet Rivers right now for around -125. I do like that. I locked that in yesterday. It's around -11, -11.5 right now. You can buy the point or a 1.5 and get that price. I would probably do that. I think Dayton wins by 12 plus here. But I'd stick to around the -10, -11 range. But this is probably my strongest play, in my opinion, tonight.
Yeah, Dayton -10 against UNLV, the Rebels from Las Vegas, but we think the money's going to come in for Dayton here. Remember, you can change your points lines with the basketball, with loads of sports here on Bet Rivers, actually. So -10 on Dayton. There's actually a match live right now in college basketball. The Cougars against Delaware. It's an early start, isn't it? I mean, that would be what, 11 o'clock start Eastern? Something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize these games started. That's really randomly early. I don't know why that is.
Is that accurate? Because I don't think there's a game this early today. Did you see it live?
It says it's live. I'm just looking at the Bet Rivers app now. 7-11 first half, unless it's an interrupted game from another night. I'm going to check this out.
Yeah. Delaware versus
the Cougars.
I have no idea who that is, honestly. Never heard of Misericord. That's definitely an interesting match that I probably wouldn't touch. Wow.
Why is there quite a strong home field court advantage in this sport? I've never really thought of that with basketball.
It's just
To
the
be honest with you.
it's the crowd. I mean, you get a lot of college kids, right? That
Right,
get
yeah,
all fired up. You got the
yeah.
band. It's a good atmosphere, right? Like, I have season tickets to Providence College. They're struggling a bit this year. They're just not very consistent, but they're dominant. I think they've only lost a handful of matches over the last 2 or 3 seasons at home. They've beaten number 1 seeds in the country at home. It's just depends on the division too, Steve, right? And depends on the distance. Some teams have to travel a lot further. Big East is generally consolidated to the Midwest at the furthest, so that's something to factor in. But yeah, it's crazy.
North, yeah, there's one other match, right? You're interested in North Florida against North Carolina. So make sure. Thankfully, we're not on a team here, so no one's going to click the wrong North when they've had a couple too many. But we're looking at the points total for this game.
I am. You basically, what you have here. This match is 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's a pretty even match for both these sides. North Florida is 7-4. NC Asheville is 6-4. NC Asheville are on a 3-game win streak. Very strong offensive teams, right? North Florida is averaging around 90 points per game, and NC Asheville is averaging about 81. Both teams are also pretty weak defensively. They both, North Florida averages about 82 points against per match, and NC Asheville about 75. But what's interesting here is the pace, right? And what pace usually defines is tempo and possessions. And they're averaging around 73 possessions per game, which is about the highest pace total throughout the evening on the college slate. So you basically have just very, very strong offenses and mediocre to pretty weak defenses. In fact, every North Florida, they're 9-0 in totals. They've exceeded their total every match so far this season. Their team total, they've exceeded 8 out of 9, and they've also allowed their opponent to exceed their team total 6 out of 9. So NC Asheville is somewhat of a wild card because depending on who they play, they tighten up defensively. But I think North Florida is going to bring it to them. They're going to give them trouble, and I like the over. So 158. Over 158 in this match at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, and I see Meninder minus 10.5. Yeah, 1.76 is fair. I don't dislike that at all. Like I said, anything between 10 and 11 is something I would strongly consider tonight. Steve, yeah, mute.
I've been doing a little bit of research since whilst you were explaining that pick, RJ. Misericordia University is a private Catholic university in Dallas, Pennsylvania, founded by the Religious Sisters of Mary in 1924, and it became a university in 2007. And the mascot is something called Archie McGraw. And this is not a sight for sore eyes. I googled Archie McGraw. And it's you want to search that up. A very interesting looking mascot.
Wow.
So that is the live. You can bet on that match live now. On the BetRivers app or betrivers.com. Misericordia Cougars against Delaware in the college basketball. But yeah, they're either 2 picks. So yeah, I mean that is very early start. Indeed, minus 10 on Dayton. That's your best bet for the basketball, and then that over 158.5 in North Florida against North Carolina. My best bet of the day just coming in the Dutch Cup. And it is that match. Let me just put it back on screen now. Yep. It is that one there. Quick Boys against Fortuna Sittard. I think over 3.5 goals at plus 130 is worth a go. And we do like the over 3 in the RKC Valvik game against Canberra as well. Lean day on the card, soccer-wise for sure. But some great conversation as always with you there, RJ. Thanks everyone who joined. Live or on demand, give us a like, give us subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. That would really help us. Subscribe to the newsletter as well. That comes out weekly. And tomorrow I'm going to be joined by Jack Wright. He's normally not on a Wednesday, but we reeled him out because there's some really interesting Carabao Cup matches across Europe. There's matches in La Liga as well. So we're going to have an interesting day on Betting Weekly Live tomorrow. It's one of those really strange weeks, actually, RJ. I've got to say the whole schedule, soccer-wise, is very strange in the build towards Christmas. And there's not another French top-tier game until the new year because they're doing all their cup matches early this season before Christmas, the first main round of the French Cup. So yeah, it's strange time. You've got to be adaptable this time of year, I always say, because it's not like run-of-the-mill in the middle of January or middle of February. But RJ, it's been great to have you back on. Best of luck with those selections. And we look forward to this back-to-back encounter me and you are going to have at the end of this year and bringing in the new year.
Likewise, it's good to be back. We actually will be on Christmas Eve as well.
Right.
So a lot to look forward to, right? We'll kick off the Christmas, really getting the Christmas spirit on Christmas Eve. I don't know if we're gonna be.
You're gonna put your Santa
outfits, Santa. Yeah, I do have a Santa hat and a Santa suit, so that's something to consider. And then New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So yeah, a lot.
Well, there's matches. There's NFL matches on Christmas Day, right?
There is. Yeah, there's a few.
So
right.
That is. I mean, we will be tasking you to find us some bets for Christmas Day.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing better, in my opinion, than sitting around after a big meal on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving, whatever you all celebrate, and just enjoy some football and then cashing some bets on top of it's a beauty,
Yeah.
So
yeah, nothing better. That's the final present of the day.
Absolutely,
isn't it? But let's hope we can bring out some gifts on that particular show. But I loved it as always, RJ. Take care, everyone. Remember to gamble responsibly, and I'll see you back tomorrow on Betting Weekly Live with Jack Wright. Take care.